Hey guys, it's Vadim with Max Tech, and over the last couple of days, benchmarks for Apple's brand new M1 Pro and M1 Max chips have been leaked. And at first glance, they kind of look a bit disappointing because they don't seem to match up to our initial estimates and predictions, but the truth is actually hidden in real-world performance, which I will show you later. So in this video, I'm gonna go through all of the leaked benchmarks, including ones for both the M1 Pro and M1 Max chips, and I'm also gonna compare them to other Mac and Windows PC systems. And then I'm gonna also look at some more realistic leaked tests that show the true power of these chips. So getting right into the leaked Geekbench 5 benchmarks, let's start with the CPU side before going over to the GPU. As you can see, we have some slight variation in the scores, with the highest one giving us an astounding 1,783 single-core and 12,693 multi-core points. Now that score is definitely not what we expected, because I personally predicted around 14,000 to 14,000 and a half multi-core points, but then again, Apple did confirm that the M1 Pro has a CPU that's just 70% faster, which almost perfectly lines up to the leaked scores we're seeing here. Now the big question is why we're not seeing an almost doubling in performance like we thought we would. But before I dig deep into that, I want to compare those leaked scores to other systems. We actually have a 12-core XEON Mac Pro in the office, which was able to score 12,518 multi-core points, so the new M1 Pro and Max chips are actually outperforming it with just 8 high-performance cores instead of 12 on the Mac Pro. But making things even crazier, we measured the peak wattage of the Mac Pro while running Geekbench 5, and it had a staggering 218 watts at one point in the test. And according to Apple's own comparison charts, the new chips are limited to 30 watts of power. So if you translate the scores into performance per watt metrics, these new MacBook Pros are giving us over 7 times more performance per watt, which is mind-blowing. Now comparing the leaked score to the previous fully spec'd out 16-inch Intel MacBook Pro, the new one is literally almost twice as fast. And going further, one of my Twitter followers shared this image of a bunch of Intel and AMD server chips. And as you can see, the new M1 Mac chips are faster than almost all of them, including the 32-core AMD EPYC 7542. And another Twitter follower, Johnny McClung, who has his own YouTube channel, shared the scores of his 16-core XEON Mac Pro, and it was just barely faster than Apple's new 10-core chip. And finally, comparing it to the best x86 laptop chip out there, the Intel i9 11980HK, Apple's new chip is much faster. So even though we're not getting the performance we expected, these new MacBook Pros are still the fastest laptops ever made. But nevertheless, the truth is that Apple is still limiting these chips with a maximum of 30 watts of power. And we know that it's not due to thermal throttling because Geekbench 5 is a quick test that never really lets the CPUs heat up that much. So it's gotta be a hard 30 watt cap by Apple. Now, why would they do this? Well, for 2 different reasons. One reason is because of Amdahl's law, which basically means that you get diminishing returns when adding more cores for running programs with parallel processing. Now, the other reason is probably because Apple showed that the 32-core M1 Max GPU uses 60 watts of power in their comparison charts to other Windows GPUs. So if you add that 60 watts from the GPU to the 30 watts from the CPU, you get a total of 90 watts of power usage if you're fully maxing out both of them at the same time, which isn't likely to happen, but it still might for very intense workloads. And then, if you consider the fact that the best power adapter option available with the 14-inch MacBook Pro is a 96 watt charger, that would leave only 6 watts of extra power for the rest of the system if you were theoretically maxing out both the CPU and the GPU. So Apple likely put a 96 watt total power cap on the entire system to ensure that the battery won't drain while you're charging it. So now the 30-watt power limit on the CPU starts to make perfect sense. Now before I get into all of the GPU benchmark leaks, the story for the CPU doesn't end just yet. The Apple developer Steve Moser was looking through the beta of macOS Monterey, and he found a brand new high power mode setting, which is the opposite of low power mode. Steve ended up finding this very interesting text from Apple themselves. Your Mac will optimize performance to better support resource-intensive tasks. This may result in louder fan noise. So that's great and all, but the caveat is that this mode is only available on the 16-inch MacBook Pro and only if you have the M1 Max chip, which is very interesting because the 14-inch can also be configured with the same fully spec'd out M1 Max. So with that said, what we have to figure out is what is so special about the 16-inch model. Well, the 16-inch is obviously much larger in terms of the chassis size, as well as being thicker, even though it packs the same chip configurations, which means that the 16-inch has more internal space to work with. And yes, the larger 100 watt-hour battery compared to 70 on the 14-inch does take up some room, but there's still some leftover space. So our theory is that the 16-inch model with the M1 Max chip actually comes with a better cooling system. And if you need some proof for that theory, here you go. If you look at the tech specs on the 16-inch MacBook Pro, the model with the M1 Max chip is actually heavier than the one with the regular M1 Pro chip. So you might be thinking that the difference is explained by just the larger chip. However, if you look at the 14-inch model's tech specs, there is no difference in weight between the two chips. So what if you truly do get a better cooling system on the 16-inch model with the M1 Max? Now with that said, another theory for this 16-inch model exclusively getting high power mode is actually due to the power adapter. Since the 14-inch model can only have up to a 96 watt power adapter, what if Apple will not allow the high power mode on that machine because of the hard 96 watt power cap? But they will on the 16-inch because it comes with an 140 watt power adapter which can recharge faster. Who knows, but either way, the point that I'm trying to make is that there's still a chance we could see better scores with high power mode enabled if those leaked benchmarks were not using it. But what I can assure you is that we will for sure be testing out the new high power mode when we get in our 8 different MacBook Pro configurations. So be sure to subscribe right now so you don't miss out. And by the way, we just launched our brand new M1 Max Tech t-shirt design, which you can find in the merch shelf below, as well as this Sharpie edition design that I'm wearing right now. And be sure to use the promo code M1Pro to get 20% off on all of our merch. Now getting into the leaked graphics benchmark scores, the highest one we saw was 68,870 points from that 32-core M1 Max GPU using the optimized metal framework. Now at first glance, that seems extremely disappointing because I was personally expecting around 80 to 90,000 graphics points in this test. So in reality, this leaked score doesn't seem that much faster than the 42,500 points that the previous Intel MacBook Pros 5600M GPU scored, and it's nowhere near the performance of the fastest laptop GPU, which is the 3080 Mobile, which Apple compared the M1 Max chip to in one of their comparison charts. But in reality, Apple's new chips pack a ton of unique and record-breaking hardware components inside of them, including an absolutely insane 32 channels of memory and a very impressive 400 gigabytes per second of memory bandwidth, so these raw GPU benchmarks don't show the whole truth. So before I get into how this 32-core GPU performs in the real world, including some more leaked tests, I want to get into the lower-end 16-core GPU and the less expensive M1 Pro chip. The best score we got for this chip is 41,914, which is actually super impressive, and it's just barely shy of our performance expectations, being almost exactly 2 times faster than the M1 M1's 8-core GPU, which would mean it's getting almost perfect scaling. However, the really weird thing is that this leaked score is actually lower than last year's top-of-the-line 5600M GPU. And this is what finally brings us to the real-world leaked tests that show a totally different picture. In GFXBench 5.0, you can now see that the 16-core M1 Pro outperforms the 5600M in basically every test that we see here, and some of these are by huge margins, like as much as 50% faster, which proves that the Geekbench 5 benchmark isn't showing us the full truth. And even in Apple's own testing, like 3D rendering using Maxon Cinema 4D with Redshift, Apple shows the 16-core M1 Pro being a staggering 2.5 times faster than the 5600M. And yes, Apple's notes show that the 5600M was fully loaded even with 64 gigabytes of RAM and an 8 terabyte SSD. Now with that said, you may have noticed that on the same 3D rendering chart from Apple, the M1 Max only gives you 4 times more performance instead of the expected 5 times if it's scaled perfectly. So Apple is admitting that yes, the 32-core GPU has diminishing returns compared to the 16-core. But don't worry, because that leaked 68,870 Geekbench score isn't telling you the truth, because we just got a set of leaked GFXBench benchmarks, and as you can see, there are many tests where this new 32-core M1 Max GPU is actually outperforming the 3080 mobile laptop GPU, because these tests are taking full advantage of the M1 Max chip package. So in reality, do not trust those disappointing looking Geekbench scores, because it performs much better in real world use cases. So with all of that said, we can see that you're not getting as much bang for your buck with the M1 Max chip compared to the M1 Pro, but that has honestly always been the case with graphics cards, and it's exactly what we expected. So if you want the best value, get the M1 Pro. But if you want the absolute most graphics power you can get, go for the 32-core M1 Max. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you did, go ahead and click the circle above to subscribe for more videos like this one, and definitely check out our buyer's guide video right over there. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.